Was Josh Jacobs almost a Bronco? The former rival Las Vegas Raiders running back was linked to the Broncos in an ESPN article that went over his free agency decision. So we're going to recap all that on today's show, as I thought it'd be a good opportunity to kind of hit pause on all the training camp news and updates and then divulge into a fun little rumor story while also looking at the Broncos running back room in general. Now, before we do all that good stuff, it is the last day in the month of July, and we have one last opportunity to make a push and overcome the deficit that the Chiefs channel at Chat Sports has in the total number of subscribers for the month of July. Now, I want to give credit to everyone who joined us this month. We more than doubled the amount of subscribers we picked up last July. But if you have not subscribed, make sure you do so. That way we can take down the Chiefs before the season even gets started. But let's talk about the Broncos almost signing Josh Jacobs, which was a loose rumor back in March, which is why you should subscribe during the offseason, because we cover all those rumors. And we covered the possibility of the Broncos signing Josh Jacobs. That's someone Sean Payton said by name when he was kind of getting ready for free agency and going into the peak of the offseason. But an ESPN article came out today, and Josh Jacobs talked about his free agency decision. And he said, "I didn't want to go to a team where I felt like I was going to be in a rebuilding situation. I didn't want to go to a team where I didn't feel like I was going to come in and immediately make an impact and be able to be one of the factors to get over the hump." Now, Rob Demovsky from ESPN wrote, "That eliminated several teams that contacted him, including the Denver Broncos, Arizona Cardinals, and New York Giants, who he said were among the 10 to 12 teams interested. In fact, he said he took $3 million to $4 million less than what other teams had offered him when he signed the 4-year, $48 million deal with the Packers." First thing that popped in my head when I read that was, I'm calling cap. Major BS on that, because all we hear nowadays is how the running back market is so thin, it's so sparse, and that players are dying to squeeze every possible penny out of their prime days. And you're telling me Josh Jacobs passed on $4 million? Josh Jacobs and the Raiders couldn't agree on, just a difference of like $1 to $2 million when they put the franchise tag on him. Fast forward a year later when he had a down 2023 season and he passes on $4 million. I don't buy that. I don't buy that. To me, that sounds like Josh Jacobs knows, hey, only me, myself, and I, along with my agent, know just how many offers we got from all the different teams that contacted us. So no one can actually come out and say that's not true except for us. So yeah, I'm going to make myself look like a little bit of a hero to my new fan base and tell Packers fans, guys, I took $4 million less because this is a place I wanted to be. I don't buy that. Nuh-uh. Now, I'm not blown away, though, by the fact that the Broncos were interested and in pursuit of Josh Jacobs. Like I said, Sean Payton mentioned Josh Jacobs pretty much by name, I think in like February during Super Bowl week. So this is not the first time we've heard the Broncos being interested in Josh Jacobs. But I'm kind of glad they didn't sign Josh Jacobs. First off, I'm a big believer in Javonte Williams going into this season. I know last year was not a superb year, but he was coming off a major knee injury where he came back sooner than anyone expected him to. And I think going into the fourth and final year of his contract and being 2 years removed from that injury will put together a really strong campaign for 33. But as I was saying, I'm not interested in Josh Jacobs. For starters, I called it a mile away. You guys know if you watch all the way to the end of the video, I do summer hot takes during the offseason. And last summer, I recall saying Josh Jacobs will be a bust this season. And what happened after leading the NFL in rushing yards in 2022? His yardage was cut pretty much in half in 2023. He came into the season out of shape. He was kind of pissed off about the whole contract dispute with the Raiders during the offseason. So I'm glad the Broncos did not sign Josh Jacobs to a 4-year, $48 million contract, or it could have been 4-year, $52 million contract if Denver was the team that offered $4 million more than what the Packers did per Josh Jacobs. But overall, I'm glad that the Broncos are not tied to Jacobs. I'm not a big believer in his work. I think the numbers kind of speak for themselves. He gets a ton of touches, which is where he gets all of his yardage from. But his actual yards per carry, I mean, last year is averaging below 4 yards a carry as the NFL reigning rushing leader. Yeah, hard pass on inking that guy to a near $50 million deal. So with his contract, he becomes the 5th highest paid running back in football, coming in at $12 million a season, just behind Saquon and a good amount ahead of Joe Mixon. I like Saquon Barkley. Like, I was happy for the Eagles, or I thought that was a smart move for the Eagles to sign Saquon Barkley. But very relieved that the Broncos did not tie themselves to Josh Jacobs, which that's not coming from a standpoint of don't pay running backs. I think the notion of don't pay running backs is a little bit of a lazy-ish take because everyone always says don't pay running backs because you can just draft one. Can we just throw that last graphic on screen really quickly, Mr. Goldman? Because I want to look over some of the highest paid running backs and look at where they were drafted. And let's talk about where the best running backs are coming from. Christian McCaffrey, 1st-round draft pick. Alvin Kamara, 3rd-round draft pick. Jonathan Taylor, 2nd-round draft pick. Saquon Barkley, 1st-round draft pick. Josh Jacobs, 1st-round draft pick. Yes, you get your Isaiah Pacheco's every once in a while. But no, there is this overall idea that you can find similar running back play 5 rounds later. That's just not true. Are there examples of it? Yes. Are there enough examples of it where it is a widespread thing and applied to all? No. Now, yeah, you can look at past Super Bowl winners and go, look at the running backs the Chiefs and the Patriots had. Well, they also had Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady. So if you don't have the best or the 2nd best quarterback in NFL history, you might need to make up for that by having a good running back. So I'm not against the idea of paying running backs or drafting them early. If they're a huge playmaker for you, they're going to touch the football after the quarterback more than anyone else on the field every given Sunday. So I think it's valuable to have a good player at that position. But I don't think Josh Jacobs is worthy of that contract. I don't think he is someone that the Packers are going to look back at and go, man, we're so happy we have him for the next 3 to 4 years. If Jacobs is watching this, enjoy the motivation. I'm one of your doubters. Now, before we move on to the rest of today's show, a quick shout out to our friends over at Game Time. Today's show is sponsored by Game Time. If you love summer baseball and want to catch a Rockies game, or you want to go see a Broncos preseason game, a concert, or anything else in your area, you're going to want to give Game Time a shot. Now, Game Time has an awesome feature called Flash Deals. You can save even more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or event. Plus, they offer the Game Time Guarantee. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. So download the Game Time app today. Use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, but again, download the Game Time app. Redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. I put all that information in the comments and description of today's video, but give Game Time a shot. They've got the best deals for Broncos country out there. Now, I want to just switch gears for a moment and talk about the Broncos running back room and just history in general as we go into the 2023 season, because it hasn't been a spectacular room, at least from a production standpoint, the last decade. I mean, for starters, you have to go all the way back to Philip Lindsay in 2019 to find their last 1,000-yard rusher. Now, not to be cynical, but if you look over the last 4,000-yard rushers in the last 10 years, yes, they reached 1,000 yards. You can't take that away from them, but they didn't do it with a lot of clearance. Like, we're talking about landing a 737 on an aircraft carrier. There wasn't a lot of runway. 11 extra yards, 37, 7, 38. Like, there was not a lot of clearance on this. In fact, the Broncos are in a little bit of a sad club of 3 teams that have not had a 1,100-plus yard rusher in the last decade, which I know I'm kind of just cherry-picking a stat, but I do think we need to kind of alter our brains a little bit because we always evaluate running backs and receivers by that 1,000-yard mark, right? If they reach 1,000 yards, just mentally, it looks so much better than 999 yards. But when the NFL added a 17th game, reaching 1,000 yards became a little bit easier for a lot of guys. So I think, not that it's going to really gain a lot of momentum or become popular, but we should maybe look at it as a 1,100-yard club, which the Falcons, the Broncos, and the Lions have not had for the last 10 years. So do you guys think that streak will end this year? I sure hope so. I think Javonte Williams is going to be a surprising back for a lot of people this year. I know in the spring a lot of people were kind of ready to kind of kick him to the curb a little bit and make way for Jaleel McLaughlin, when I think in all reality we're going to see Javonte Williams get 55% of the carries, Jaleel McLaughlin get 25% of the carries, and then Samaje Perine and Audric Estime, they get the remaining carries, because I forgot the math I already put out in front of me. So give me a Y for yes or an N for no. Now, when it comes to Javonte Williams specifically, while I was making this video, I also came across a really fun article from Pro Football Network, which picked one player from all 32 teams to make their first Pro Bowl this upcoming season. And surprise, surprise, while we're talking running backs today, they selected Javonte Williams. I'm very optimistic on this running back room. I think we're going to see this running back room really start to come into its own form as McLaughlin comes into year 2. Perine's going to be if he makes the roster, which is a little bit of a battle, but I think he will, he's going to be a reliable blocking running back for Bo Nix, and he's also going to be a great asset in the receiving department. And then you toss in the rookie from Notre Dame who has looked exquisite through the first week plus of training camp for goal line touches in short yardage situations. They've got a running back for pretty much every possible scenario. You want a guy to hand it off to on 1st and 10, Javonte Williams. You want to involve someone in the red zone or in a screen or in a creative package, Jaleel McLaughlin with his speed. You want to get someone on 3rd and 15 with a little dump off to a running back because no one's open downfield. Samaje Perine did that more than one time last year. Or how about someone at the goal line on 4th and goal? Yeah, I think no one's stopping Audric Estime at the goal line this season. So I think the Broncos have a very well-versed running back room that may not have a true bell cow back, but they've got a guy for every possible scenario. So with that all being said, when you add in a rookie quarterback, and we know this Broncos offensive line is a top 10 unit, in my opinion, in the NFL, that should equal a very simple solution for Sean Payton. Run the damn ball. Don't put too much on Bo Nix's plate. This is not a wide receiver room that's just oozing and proven talent. There are some young up-and-coming guys, but let's not kid ourselves. It's not like it is the Cincinnati Bengals or something like that. Rookie, good O-line, plenty of good backs on the sideline, get a good, healthy rotation in. It may not yield an awesome fantasy football team, but that's not what Sean Payton's goal is. So I'm not advising you guys to start drafting all these running backs in your fantasy leagues, but I am advising you to be on notice that they're going to be a productive unit, and it's going to be a team effort, but ultimately that's what the Broncos are looking for, a good team. Now, before we sign off and let you guys get on the rest of your way, I do want to get into our summer hot takes for today. It is another scorching day in the Mile High City, over 95 degrees. So hopefully it starts to cool down a little bit, but it's a dry heat hot take. And today's dry heat hot take might be the hottest one yet. With Javonte Williams entering the final year of his contract, I'll shoot my shot right now, July 31st, 2024, and predict this upcoming offseason in March, the Broncos will re-sign Javonte Williams to a 3-year, $20 million contract. Put it in the books right now. No pencil. Give me the Sharpie. 3 years, $20 million for Pookie.